He caught me in the act with my boss and then took the worst revenge possible. Hello, Reddit. My name is Courtney, and I'm 28 years old, and I'm doomed. I'm still in so much shock, and I cannot even process it in my head. I am actually married and have been for 5 years now, but I'm so scared of my husband right now. I don't know what is going on in his head or why he's reacting this way. Well, the thing is, I cheated on my husband with my boss, and I was caught. I was shocked. He caught me with my skirt up and my boss behind me, but then he just decided to do this. I know, you'd probably think he'd yell and chase me out of the house, but he did none of those things. Instead, he has been quite silent. He speaks to me normally and has never mentioned what he saw that day. His silent reaction really scares me. If he was lashing out, it would have been better, and maybe that would have made the whole thing bearable. But he hasn't even spoken about the incident, and he still shows up at work. We actually work at the same company, but I am my husband's boss. I got promoted and became his boss just 6 months after our wedding. I had expected him to change and demand I quit, because that was what happened everywhere. But Ryan had been so encouraging. He even surprised me with a dinner date and told me he was proud of me, and didn't mind that I was now his boss. You see, Ryan and I met when we both came for the interview for the job at the company. It had been my wildest dream to work at that company. I won't mention the name of the company for privacy's sake. I chose my course of study specifically because I wanted to have the opportunity to work at one of the biggest companies, and when I got the job, it was my biggest dream come true. I actually chose to defy my parents in order to study what I wanted, and they weren't exactly pleased with that, so they refused to pay for my education. I had to work different part-time jobs and combine that with schoolwork. It was hectic, but I was determined to see it through. Because of the busy schedules I had to keep in order to study, I had no time for a boyfriend. Not that I didn't have one, but I was too busy for him, and he eventually broke up with me, saying that I clearly had other priorities that weren't him. I wasn't too pained by the breakup because I wasn't exactly invested in the relationship. So, when Ryan and I both applied for the interview, we were both picked for the next round of interviews. We quickly became friends and offered to share tips on how to best answer the questions we'd be asked. Eventually, when we both went for the interview, we both got the job. I remember we went to have drinks that evening to celebrate our new jobs. We started working together, and somehow we eased into a relationship easily. Ryan asked me if we could try a relationship, and I agreed. Even though I had always liked Ryan from the beginning, my feelings grew as we became closer. I was very excited when he asked me to date him. We were together for more than a year before Ryan proposed marriage. Ryan casually said over dinner that we should start planning our wedding, and I was surprised and said yes. It was the weirdest way of proposing, but knowing Ryan as well as I did, I knew he was a very shy person. I also saw him shaking his feet during dinner, a habit he had whenever he was nervous. I loved Ryan so much, and I was so happy that we were getting married. One thing I loved most about Ryan was that he was a very strategic planner, always calculating, so we barely had any losses or extra money to spend because of how well he planned everything. I had always been a spontaneous person, so having Ryan kept me in check. I guess it's true what they say about opposites attracting, and that I could make a decision right on the spur of the moment, and most times, it definitely got me into trouble, but definitely not at work. I was good at my job, and my spontaneity always somehow helped me get the job done. We started planning our wedding and sent out our invites to our colleagues at work, and within 2 months, we were married. I never considered myself a career woman because I just loved my job, and getting it done was my topmost priority while I was at it. I was never one to chase after a promotion or suck up to the bosses so they could consider me for one, but I began to get really desperate and wish I'd gotten a promotion when Mira came into the picture. Mira came in as an intern around the time I was planning my wedding, so I wasn't focusing on her. But after my wedding, when everything calmed down, I found out that she had suddenly become everyone's favorite, even the boss's. Within 3 months of working as an intern, she had gotten a permanent position. In fact, she was literally the eye candy of the office. She was beautiful and she knew it. She used her beauty to manipulate people into doing her bidding. All the female workers were clearly intimidated by her, and I wasn't left out. I felt the most intimidated and overshadowed by her, and I began to desperately try every means possible to get a promotion. I started to work harder than I ever had before. I went the extra mile to get things done and made sure to take all of the praises, instead of sharing credit with the team as I had done before. I began spending time with the bosses after work, trying hard to please them so I could get a promotion as fast as possible. Funny enough, as a newlywed couple, you'd expect me to be trying to focus on my marriage, but I just ignored Ryan and focused on getting this promotion. When Ryan tried to talk me out of it and advised me to wait patiently, not to desperately do things I'd probably regret, I got really angry at him. I refused to speak to him for an entire day, even though we lived together. I believed that he wasn't as ambitious as I was, and that he wanted to dampen my spirit, thinking he didn't want me to get promoted because he wasn't getting a chance at promotion himself. Ryan apologized the next day with a bouquet of flowers and a note that said he loved me and hated when we argued. I, of course, forgave him because it was a sweet gesture. He never mentioned anything about my desperate attempts to get a promotion after that argument. I finally got promoted, and I was overly joyous that I had finally achieved what I wanted, but at the same time, I was anxious. Everyone knew that Ryan and I were married since they had come to our wedding, and the news of my promotion spread around the office. I knew Ryan had probably heard about the promotion before I even had the chance to tell him, and I started to get worried about how he'd react. What bothered me even more was the fact that our colleagues were whispering. I had overheard two ladies talking in the restroom about how the wife got promoted while the husband hadn't, and how much they pitied Ryan because I would definitely be earning more than he did, which meant I would become proud. The excitement I felt when I first heard the news of my promotion vanished in an instant, and I became very worried. When we got home, Ryan asked me to wear a pretty dress, and he took me to dinner. It was really romantic, and during dinner, he expressed how happy he was that I had kept persisting until I got what I wanted, and he said he was proud of my achievements. At that moment, when I thought back to the many things I had done to get that promotion, my smile faltered, but I quickly continued smiling so Ryan wouldn't suspect anything, and I guess he didn't. We continued with our lives as husband and wife, and also as colleagues at work. I was happy that Mira was no longer the shiny new toy in the office, and that I had gotten the promotion I so desperately wanted. That fact alone was satisfying. Despite what you're probably thinking, my affair with my boss didn't start when I got my promotion. I didn't actually sleep my way to the promotion. I did bribe and run some errands for them, but my promotion wasn't the result of sleeping around. I loved Ryan and would never have cheated on him for something so trivial, even though it was something I desperately wanted. But I guess being sexually attracted to a person who is a walking potential hazard can definitely cause you to do that one thing you pledged never to do. I had seen firsthand how cheating on one's partner could ruin everything a person had worked for their whole life. It happened with my Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam had been married to his high school girlfriend, and they were happily married until she cheated on him. My uncle never recovered from that. So you'd think, with that glaring situation in mind, I would avoid putting myself in the direct line of fire. But no. It was like everything that happened with Uncle Sam flew out of my mind, and I forgot everything because I wanted to fulfill my desires. I was sent to another branch of our company to check how they operated and why they were making more sales than we were. Because the other branch was in another state, I had to travel there, and I was supposed to spend a week learning the ropes. Ryan was sad to see me go, but I had no choice. It was a work order, and I couldn't refuse. When I got there via a road trip, I was so exhausted that I couldn't even check out the work site. I just checked into the bed and breakfast inn I had booked for the week. Though the company had paid for my travel expenses to fly, I decided to take a road trip instead because of my fear of heights. They also gave me money to book a hotel room, but I decided to book an inn because it was cheaper and friendlier. That also meant I got to keep the extra money. It was a win-win situation for me, even though the road trip wasn't exactly what I had hoped it would be. It felt like every bump in every road was transferred to that side of the country, and we just kept going up and down throughout the journey. It was pretty exhausting. I arrived at the inn and rested for the day before heading out the next day. As I was trying to enter the building, a man bumped into me, spilling his hot coffee on my clothes. Luckily, I wasn't wearing anything thin, or I would have been burned. He apologized profusely and offered to pay for my dry cleaning. I was frustrated because I was supposed to meet the boss, and I definitely couldn't go with damp clothes. I refused his offer to pay for the dry cleaning and rushed back to the room I rented to change. I was already late, but I had no choice. When I got back and asked to see the boss in charge, I was directed to his office. On getting there, it turned out to be the same person who spilled his hot coffee on me, and he too was surprised to see me. I apologized for being late, and he waved it off since he was the reason for my delay. We started to discuss business, and he offered to take me on a tour to show me how everything worked. I was supposed to work as an assistant manager for the week, but he insisted I work as his personal assistant instead. The offer felt weird, but I knew that working directly with him and learning the business would help me a great deal, so I agreed. The next day, I followed him around. Oh, by the way, his name is Alex. So I followed Alex around throughout the day and learned a lot, even drafting new ideas for our own branch. At the end of the day, Alex offered to buy me dinner, and I politely refused, but he insisted, saying he wanted to make it up to me for soiling my clothes, and because he noticed I skipped lunch while following him around. I accepted the offer and we went out for dinner. It was really nice, and Alex made me laugh a lot. By the end of the evening, he offered to drive me to my rented room, and I accepted. When we arrived, he was clearly not pleased by the state of the place I stayed, but he said nothing. That day, I forgot to call Ryan to tell him how my day went. When I woke up the next morning, I saw his calls and worried texts, and I planned to call him later that day. Well, that day, I was informed that I was to move into a hotel room that had been paid for the rest of the week. When I asked who paid for it, it turned out to be Alex. I wasn't comfortable with the gesture because for the longest time, I had been used to sorting things out myself. I considered unnecessary spending a bad habit, especially since Ryan had influenced me in that regard. When I got to work and went to Alex's office, I asked why he made the upgrade. He said he just wanted me to be comfortable and that the place I rented might not have been suitable for that. I had no choice but to accept because I didn't want to get into the habit of refusing gifts, especially from my boss, and risk getting him angry in the process. That evening, after getting back from work, I packed up my things and went to the hotel room. While I was trying to settle in, I heard a knock. Thinking it was room service, I opened the door, and it turned out to be Alex. He said he just wanted to check up on me and see how I was settling in. I gave him the appropriate answers, and then he asked if I was going to invite him in for a glass of champagne. I made excuses, saying I didn't have any, and lied that I usually get too drunk on champagne, which would definitely affect my work the next day. He reluctantly bade me goodnight and left. I started feeling uncomfortable with his sudden acts and showing up, but it continued for the rest of the week. I was glad I had to leave by the end of the week, but I was suddenly called a day before I was meant to leave and told to extend my stay for another week. I knew it was definitely Alex's doing, and I was so upset and shaken that I went to his place that evening to vent my anger. When he saw me at his place, which he had taken me to earlier that week when he needed to pick up an important document, he was surprised and then happy, inviting me in. I don't know how, but suddenly all the anger left and I just stood there gaping at him like a fish with a fried brain. He must have thought I came there because I had some kind of feelings for him, because he drew me closer and started kissing me. At that point, as stupid as this might sound, I didn't resist and just gave in. I don't know why I did that, and I really regret it now, but I don't even know what happened exactly. The whole night was a blur, and I woke up in his bed, completely naked. He hadn't woken up yet, so I just picked up my clothes and ran. I felt so guilty. I had just cheated on my husband with my boss. What made me feel even guiltier was that my phone rang, and Ryan's picture, which I used as my call background, popped up. Ryan was calling, and I felt so guilty that I couldn't bring myself to pick up the call. Luckily, that day was a Sunday, so I didn't have to work, and I just stayed in my room. Alex also called me and sent several texts, but I didn't reply to any of them. I just sat in my room thinking about the weight of my actions. The crazy thing was, I kept thinking about the sex we had and how sinfully amazing it felt. I was stuck between two feelings, my guilt and my lust. Later that evening, someone knocked, and suspecting it was probably Alex, I didn't open the door and just ignored it. The knocking stopped, and I thought he had given up and gone away, but 2 minutes later, I heard the key turning in the door. I was shocked when I saw Alex standing inside my room, holding the master key to my door. He asked me why I had ignored him all day after we had sex the previous day, and I didn't say anything. He walked toward me, probably intending to hold me, but I flew into his arms and kissed him. We had sex again that night, and every night until I had to leave to go back to my husband and work. I know. I honestly don't know why I kept having sex with him despite not even loving him or anything. It was just really about the sex. Throughout the extra week I spent there, I never returned any of Ryan's calls. I felt unworthy to even call him or answer his calls. His calls reminded me that I was behaving wantonly, and I guess at that point I wasn't thinking about anything else but my sexual satisfaction. Besides the sex, I never allowed Alex to do anything else for me. I refused all his attempts to take me out or buy me gifts. I was only with him for the sex, and in my head I somehow concluded that it would only be a week-long affair. I thought we had our individual lives to live. I'd go back to Ryan and be his wife again, and Alex would go back to work and probably get another woman to satisfy his sexual urges. But well, it didn't happen that way. I had never told Alex that I was married. Maybe that's why he felt we were two free adults who could do whatever we wanted. I let him assume that I wasn't married. I knew he thought I was only in a relationship and not married, and I just went along with it. In my head, I thought our relationship had ended along with my work there, but I never knew I had something else coming for me. After I got back, I apologized to Ryan for never returning his calls and lied, saying work had been very hectic there, and most times when he called, I was either working or resting from the job. Ryan believed me and never mentioned it again. I resumed work the following week, and we were suddenly informed of a change in administration. I was being promoted to assist the incoming administration and keep them updated. I was happy about the promotion, but also surprised by the sudden change in administration. However, because I wasn't the owner of the business, I kept quiet about it. The new administration was supposed to arrive the next day, so we had time to organize the office and put together a summary of our new project in the making. When Ryan and I got home, he cooked us dinner and took out the champagne he had brought home from work. We celebrated my new promotion. Ryan was so proud of me, and I felt very happy about it. Being promoted twice while your husband is still in the same position as when you both got the job could definitely make him jealous or cause him to react differently. But Ryan wasn't like that. He was saving up to start his own company, so he was really content. And that was one thing I loved about him. The next day, my excitement about starting my new job and welcoming our new boss turned into panic and shock when I saw exactly who the new boss was. It was Alex. He was the new boss. I managed to smile and give him the flowers we had prepared for his arrival. I also showed him to his office without revealing the riot going on in my head. When we were finally alone, Alex reached for me and started kissing me, muttering about how much he missed me and how he couldn't do without me. Instead of pushing him away and trying to explain the situation, I let him kiss me. We would have probably had sex that day on his desk if it wasn't for the gentle tap on the door that stopped us. It was one of the staff bringing in some stacks of documents. When I regained my senses, I put some space between us and asked what he was doing. He said he just wanted to see me and was doing exactly that. I panicked and knew I had to tell him the truth before he found out about my marriage to Ryan himself. I asked him if he knew I was in a committed relationship, and he shrugged. I then told him that the committed relationship was actually a marriage and that my husband worked in the same company. Alex's mood shifted instantly, and I excused myself to give him space to think. I thought it was better that way. Even though I felt uneasy, I thought it was better he knew, and that he might choose to leave and never see me again. But then again, I was panicking. What if he got angry that I had deceived him and decided to tell my husband? But Alex didn't do any of that. In fact, the next day, when he called me into his office to brief him on a document, I was surprised. I thought maybe he'd never want to see me again, or perhaps he would have taken his leave. When I got to his office, he locked the door, dragged me to him, and kissed me. Surprised, I went along with it. We ended up having sex that day in his office, and afterward, Alex asked me to leave. I was so surprised because we had just had sex, and instead of saying he forgave me or something like that, he told me to leave. This pattern continued for another week, the same process. He'd call me, we'd have sex, and then he'd throw me out afterward. I thought maybe this was his way of venting his anger, and I kept quiet about it until I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted him and told him I didn't want to have sex with him anymore, because people were beginning to suspect, and because he was treating me like a sex toy. Alex laughed wickedly and told me he would have sex with me anytime he wanted, and that I wouldn't dare refuse him because he would put me out of my job, make sure I wasn't employed anywhere else, and ruin my marriage. I knew I was trapped. I had implicated myself. I couldn't afford to lose my job, and most importantly, I couldn't afford to lose Ryan. I loved him too much to lose him. So I continued sleeping with Alex, risking everything to save everything. The crazy thing was that Alex always demanded sex in the office, nowhere else. It was like he knew that I was panicking even during the sex because anyone could catch us at any moment. A month after Alex's arrival, orders came from the headquarters to promote all those due for promotion. And yes, Ryan was one of them. I was so happy for him and at the same time really scared. Ryan's promotion meant he'd be on the same floor as me and would see me going into the boss's office. Even though that was part of my job description, he might begin to suspect something. I tried begging Alex to reduce the frequency of our sexual encounters, but he wouldn't listen. He clearly wanted me for my body and wanted to use that to punish me for deceiving him. The first week of Ryan's promotion was terrifying because I was always on edge. The only time I felt relaxed was when we had closed for the day and gone home. Ryan noticed and asked why I was so tense at work, and why the boss seemed to call me alone all the time. I made silly excuses, saying he was just a demanding boss. Ryan, of course, accepted my excuses and told me that if the boss was bothering me, I could quit and try to get another job or maybe pursue a hobby. Somehow, his concern agitated me, and I got really angry. In my twisted head, it felt like he was asking me to quit so I could become a housewife. I didn't speak to him that evening and just went to bed without making dinner for either of us. Ryan didn't say anything, and the next morning, I only made a cup of coffee, when I usually made 2 for both of us, and then made 1 toast instead of 2. I also went to work separately instead of riding with Ryan in his car. My anger extended throughout the day, and I still didn't speak to him when he got home, even though he tried explaining himself and apologizing. Well, the next day at work, I saw Maria, a coworker, who had received a bouquet of flowers and a sorry note. She happily called her long-term boyfriend and was giggling over the phone. I felt bad for treating Ryan badly when he was only saying those things out of genuine concern for me. I decided that when I got home, I would apologize to him and settle everything. That had been my thought when I was called up again to the boss's office. Maybe Ryan had noticed how tense I became when I went up. I wouldn't know now. When I got to Alex's office, he asked me to strip waist down and bend over his desk. I obeyed. I pulled up my skirt, removed my underwear, and bent over his desk as Alex came behind me. He had just started pounding me from behind when the door opened, and I turned to see Ryan looking at me, then at Alex. I was so shocked. I pulled down my skirt, forgetting my underwear, and ran after him, but Ryan ignored me and went back to his desk. By now, everyone had seen me running after Ryan and was wondering what had happened, so I had to hastily return to my seat and force my panicking self to calm down. By the end of the day, Ryan waited to take me home, and I was so surprised. All through the ride home, he was weirdly calm. The only thing he did was tap the steering wheel as he drove. I was panicking so hard inside, and when we got home, he asked me if I wanted to eat pasta for dinner. Thinking about all sorts of things, I said no. It's been 4 days now, and I'm losing my mind. Ryan hasn't said anything about my affair with Alex, and he hasn't touched me either. I'm so scared out of my wits. I really don't know what to do now. Why is Ryan behaving like this? Why is he not lashing out or getting angry at me? His silence is slowly making me lose my mind. I'm scared even to bring up the matter because I don't know how to say it or how to begin apologizing. I still love Ryan so much, and I'm really scared I'm losing him, even though he's not saying anything. What do I do, guys? Please, I need your advice desperately. Update. Hello, Reddit. I'm finally doomed. Everyone and everything is against me. Ryan, you guys, and the whole world probably. I can't even breathe properly, afraid of the criticism I might get. It's so hard to live now. You know, I came here asking for advice on what to do regarding my marriage, and I got the worst responses possible. You guys definitely made me realize how much hate there is for cheating women, and I definitely hate myself so much right now. Well, my husband finally reacted, but in a rather explosive way, I think. I was so stupid for not getting on my knees and apologizing that same day we got home. I just waited to see his reaction, and I didn't get one. Well, until now. Ryan kept going to work for a whole month, but only to ruin things. First, he tendered my resignation letter on my behalf without my knowing. Then, apparently, he had recorded Alex and me having sex, and I didn't even know. He sent it to the headquarters, and now Alex has been rendered jobless. Ryan, for releasing information about staff misconduct, was promoted and given Alex's former seat. That's not all he did, though. He also discreetly released the video of me online, so no one could trace it to him. Then, he finally decided to get a divorce, leaving me with nothing but the clothes I had. I got nothing in the settlement. The money I managed to save was what I used to get myself a cheap apartment. And now I can't even go out without being pointed at. I hear things like, poor husband of hers, or cheap girl, or she did it to get her position in the company. It's so hard even to live these days because somehow I don't even care what those people think about me. I deserve it. That I know. I'm only so pained that Ryan thinks of me that way too. I feel so heartbroken and disgusted with myself for cheating on Ryan like that. I know now that I never deserved his unconditional love and support. I lost him, I lost Ryan. I lost him because I was stupid and dumb. Now that I think back, I can't even pinpoint an exact reason why I did what I did. Everything seems so worthless to me now, even myself. I feel so worthless, even to myself. I used to have Ryan supporting me silently in the background and helping me, but now I have no one at my worst. And knowing it's all my fault just makes it all the more painful. Crying myself to sleep seems like a normal process now. My head is like a broken recorder replaying that awful day Ryan caught me with Alex over and over again. I feel so stupid for hurting Ryan, and I wish so desperately that I could take back the hurt I caused him. I wish I had never met Alex or even slept with him. I should have been faithful to my marriage and faithful to Ryan. I know for the rest of my days I will forever pay for my sins. What I'd give right now to be in Ryan's arms again, in the comfort of our matrimonial bed, snuggled up by him. Different women and men have viable reasons for cheating on their spouses. Some I've heard do it because they're not loved. Some need attention, some do it for money, and for many other reasons. The craziest thing is, I did it for nothing. I didn't lack money, attention, love, or support from my marriage. I had all of those things, yet I was so stupid to think that I could cheat on Ryan and maybe get away with it. It's so painful. It really is painful. The emptiness in my heart feels so painful. I feel empty, and yet this emptiness feels so painful. I don't know how, but it does. I really wish that everything happening right now is just a bad nightmare, and that Ryan would just shake me awake, hold me in his arms and soothe me, telling me it was just a bad dream. But it isn't, is it? It's real. It's my reality now. All of this is update. Hello, Reddit. This is probably going to be my last post here, and I know that a lot of you hate me, and I deserve the hate, so it's fine, actually. But thank you for at least reading my story. I hope maybe someone, somewhere, who is about to commit the same stupid mistakes I made, will see this and retract their steps before it's too late, as it is for me. Thanks and goodbye.
Life is unpredictable because a single mistake has ruined my life. Nothing makes sense to me anymore. How I wish I could turn back the hands of time. How I wish I never attended the family Christmas party. How I wish I never got drunk that very night. But it's too late now. Life seems to be turning against me. It's a very painful story, and I don't know how to tell the story without feeling very bad. The horrible mistake I made has destroyed my whole life. Hi guys, my name is Cynthia, and I'm a 28-year-old hairdresser. I'm married to a pilot. His name is Scott. Scott and I have been married for 2 years now. We met 2 years ago, And ever since, it's been a fairy tale until I made a terrible mistake a few months ago. Scott is every woman's dream man, handsome, tall, kind, and caring. Sometimes I wondered what he saw that made him fall in love with me. Scott's dad didn't want him to get married to me. He tried matchmaking him to different ladies, but Scott refused and chose to be with me. He practically changed my life within a short period. He is a perfect gentleman. I always describe him as my soulmate. He is one of the best things that has ever happened to me. That's why I can't forgive myself for accidentally kissing his dad. Don't judge me, guys. I was drunk. Everything happened so fast that I don't even know how it happened. It still feels like a dream. How could I make that kind of mistake? Scott's dad has always been the villain in our love story. I will be referring to him as Mr. Alex, not his real name though. I want to keep his identity private because he is a popular businessman. Mr. Alex, Scott's dad, never liked me. He always told me I wasn't good enough for his son. He always called me a gold digger who came to reap where I didn't sow. He always wanted Scott to marry one of his friend's daughters, but Scott declined. Mr. Alex never misses any opportunity to remind me how low class I was, and I'm not worthy of being his daughter-in-law because I wasn't from a rich home. My parents were just retired civil servants. Mr. Alex never misses any chance to tell me he doesn't like me. That's why it hurts so much that I let my guard down around him. I can't even believe I kissed him. It still feels surreal. Thinking about it now, it was disgusting. Everything happened so quickly. Scott and were invited for his family Christmas party. Scott was very excited because his father stopped talking to him ever since we got married. Mr. Alex went as far as not attending our wedding. So you can imagine how thrilled Scott was when he got the invitation to the party. He was also asked to bring me along to the party. Initially, I didn't want to attend because I know I will not be welcomed, but Scott insisted we attend. He told I might never get this type of opportunity again and that his family is beginning to accept me. He said I should use this opportunity and get to meet everyone because it's the holidays and everyone will be around. I reluctantly agreed to attend the party, but I wished I never did. I wished I stood my ground and just slept at home on that fateful night. I love Scott so much, I could never tell him no. Scott has been through a lot because of me. At a point I was all he had, because his family disowned him because of me. I know how much me attending the party means to him. He has always wished for me to get along with his family. Scott was so excited about the party that he cleared his schedule so we'll be able to attend the party together. He bought me expensive dresses, shoes, and jewelry to complement the looks. We arrived at the party early because he wanted to introduce me to everyone before the party started. He introduced me to his relatives, friends, and colleagues. Everyone was excited to see me except for Scott's immediate family. His mom always accused me of breaking the family and taking away her only son. His sisters never liked me just like their father. So they were all cold towards me. They barely answered my greetings. I, on the other hand, decided to just enjoy the party because I got tired of trying to get their attention. I got so carried away that I got so drunk. Everything was going so well until I went to the restroom. Scott never wanted me to go alone, but I convinced him I wasn't that drunk and that I could take care of myself. I was lying, guys. I didn't want him to miss out on the family reunion. He was so happy catching up with his cousins that I didn't want him to miss anything. It's been a long time since I saw Scott that happy. That's why I didn't want to ruin it for him and decided to go to the restroom alone, even though I was very drunk. On my way to the restroom, I met with Scott's dad, and he asked me to come to his room for a brief chat. I told I wanted to use the restroom, and he told me that he has a toilet in his room and that I could use the one in his room. I was reluctant at first, but I still followed after, imagining how happy it would make Scott when he found out I had a talk with his father. I followed Mr. Alex to his room, and surprisingly, he didn't have any meaningful things to say. He was just blabbing about how I took his only son from him. The next minute, he started caressing my hair, and for a minute, I forgot myself. And the unthinkable happened. I kissed him, guys. I don't know what came over me. I don't know why I didn't leave the room when I found out he didn't have any meaningful things to say. I don't know why I didn't stop him from caressing my hair. I was so drunk that I didn't have control over how I was acting. For a second, I thought Mr. Alex was Scott. I guessed it was the alcohol. I ran out immediately. At the moment, I knew I had messed it up. What surprised me is that Mr. Alex didn't try to stop me from kissing me. He just stood still with his hands raised up. The reason I followed Mr. Alex to his room in the first place was because I thought he wanted to apologize for how he had treated me for the past 2 years. I didn't know he was just setting me up. I ran back to the party room as fast as my legs could carry me. Scott was already looking for me everywhere. He asked me where I was coming from, and I told him I was coming from the restroom. He said he came to the restroom, but I wasn't there. I had to lie to him that I went outside briefly for some fresh air. Somehow he knew I was lying. I could tell from how he was staring at me. Everything happened so fast that I didn't even have time to think about what had just happened. I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I can't believe I kissed my husband's dad. How do I bring myself to explain everything to him? What would happen after he found out I kissed his dad? All these were the thoughts running through my head. I didn't know what to do. I was confused and devastated. All through the rest of the party, I wasn't myself, and Scott noticed. He asked what was wrong with me, and I lied to him that I was just tired. My heartbeat increased when he asked why my lipstick was a mess. I had to come up with something quickly. I told him I bumped into someone on my way from the restroom. Everything happened so fast that I didn't even put myself together. Scott saw how uncomfortable and disorganized I was as asked, we leave the party immediately. It was a silent ride back home. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept wishing I never went to that party. I couldn't believe everything that had just happened. It felt like a dream. I thought everything would go away in the morning, and that I was just having a bad dream, but I was wrong. It was in the morning that the reality of what I have done hit me. I felt bad, Scott. I couldn't believe I betrayed his trust. He literally fought with his entire family, especially his dad, just to be with me. I felt bad for betraying him. He doesn't deserve this. I felt terrible, guys. I wanted the ground to open so I could disappear. I wanted everything to just go away, but how? I wanted to run away because the more I saw Scott, the more guilty I felt. I decided to confess everything to Scott and be free from guilt. While I was planning on confessing everything to Scott, I got a call from Mr. Alex, Scott's dad. He asked me to come and see him alone if I wanted to save my marriage. I didn't want to go, but at that point I was desperate. I told Scott I wanted to hang out with my friends and went. He asked us to meet in a hotel, but I insisted we must meet in an open place. He asked me to meet him in the office then. I arrived at his office and I met him in a meeting. His secretary asked me to wait at the waiting room and that the meeting would soon be over. After the meeting was over, Mr. Alex called me in. He had this mischievous smile on his face. I have never seen him smile before. He never smiled at me before, so it felt kind of strange. He offered me coffee and I refused. I asked him why he wanted to see me and he said he wanted to save my marriage. He asked me what I intend to do after what happened at the Happy. I told him I was planning on confessing everything to Scott. He told me I shouldn't do that, because Scott might never forgive me. He told a man can lose everything but never his ego, that Scott's ego would be broken when he finds out I kissed him. He gave me 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't confess everything to Scott. He told me telling Scott everything will break their family, and how he misses his son and he doesn't want to lose his only son. He said he wanted his family back and that his family would never be complete without Scott. He practically begged me not to confess to Scott. He also told me he has accepted me fully as his son's wife, as he is tired of fighting Scott because of me. He told me he sees how happy Scott is with me, and nothing else matters to him than his only son's happiness. Everything he was saying felt too good to be real. I couldn't believe my ears. I've always dreamed of the day Mr. Alex would finally accept me as his daughter-in-law, but I never envisioned it to be this way and manner. I was happy and sad at the same time. I wasn't comfortable with the idea because Scott and I promised to never lie to each other. We promised to always tell each other the truth, so I was a bit reluctant. Mr. Alex promised me that no one would hear what happened that day if I decided to follow his advice. I agreed to keep everything to myself and not confess to Scott. That was another wrong decision. I wished I never listened to Mr. Alex. I wish I just followed my instincts and confessed everything to Scott. I became a shadow of myself. I was always lost in thought. The guilt was eating me up. one day Scott got a call from his dad. He was so excited because that was the first time his father was calling him in 2 years. His dad invited Scott and I over for dinner at their family house. Scott was excited. He was jumping up and down like a baby that was handed candy. He asked me to get ready so that he would pick me up after work. I didn't want to go because seeing his dad would make me relive that bad memory. But I didn't want to say no either because Scott would suspect something is wrong. He has already started suspecting me. I didn't want to add to it. So I decided to go to the family dinner with him. We arrived at the family dinner, and everyone was hostile to me as usual. Mr. Alex ignored me and went straight to embrace Scott. He told him he had an announcement to make after dinner. For some reason, I felt uneasy. Deep down, I knew whatever announcement Mr. Alex wanted to make wasn't going to favor me. At that moment, I just wanted to confess everything to Scott, but he was busy having a discussion with his mom. I didn't want to interrupt them because I knew how much they missed each other, so I waited. The next minute, Mr. Alex stood up and nothing prepared me for what happened next. The embarrassment I got that day is still fresh in my memory. The next thing I saw on the TV screen was a video of me kissing Mr. Alex with his hands raised up. While I was still trying to make sense of what was happening, the conversation I had with Mr. Alex at his office was also played, but the conversation was doctored. It was at that moment I realized that everything was properly planned. The video only showed when I kissed Mr. Alex, and not the beginning of everything. It was then I understood why he raised his hand while I was kissing him. He was just trying to pass a message. Even our recorded conversation was doctored to suit the narrative he was trying to pass. Mr. Alex went on to lie to everyone about the event that transpired between us. He told them how I tried to seduce him because I wanted money, and how I came to his office the following day to beg him not to disclose what happened to Scott. Guys, I was too stunned to speak. I couldn't believe my ears. Scott was speechless. I saw tears in his eyes and I felt sorry for him. Everyone looked at me with so much hate. I felt so sorry for Scott. I ran to him to explain everything to him, but he refused to listen. He left angrily. I tried to run after him, but Scott's mom stopped me and slapped me. He asked me why I had decided to destroy his poor son's life, and that I even went as far as kissing her husband. She threw me out after raining curses at me. I was mute all through. I couldn't even utter a word. I took a cab and went home. To my greatest surprise, Scott wasn't at home. I waited for him all through, but he never came home that night. The following morning, he arrived and started throwing my things out. I tried explaining everything to him, how it actually happened, but he didn't believe me. He said he has seen enough evidence, and I cannot manipulate him any longer. I told him how everything happened, but he still paid deaf ears to everything I was saying. He told me how he regretted the day he met and wished he never went against his family for me. I explained to him how his dad set me up and he is trying to break us apart. He refused to listen. All efforts to calm him down were in vain. He even went as far as setting my things on fire. He burnt all my clothes and documents. He told me he was done with the marriage and I should get out of his life for good. While I was still trying to plead with him, the lawyer arrived with divorced papers and I was forced to sign the divorce papers. Scott threatened to leak the video on social media if I don't sign the divorce papers. I got scared and signed it. After signing the divorce papers, he threw me out of the house and threatened to ruin my life completely. I left the house empty-handed. He didn't allow me to go with anything. I was practically chased out like a cheap prostitute, and I tried reaching Scott severally, but he never gave me a listening ear. I got so tired that I finally decided to accept my fate. I decided to go squat with my friend till I'm able to stand on my feet again. I was penniless. Scott made me stop working immediately after our marriage. He provided everything I needed, so I didn't have a single penny to my name. I got the biggest shock of my life when my parents called me crying that they were homeless. Apparently, Scott had chased them away from the house he bought for them a year ago. Listening to my parents cry over the phone broke me into pieces. I didn't know what to do. My parents sold their old house 2 years ago so they could pay for my brother's tuition. This was before I met Scott. My parents were retired civil servants. They couldn't afford to train my little brother and sister at the same time, so they had to sell their house and move to a shared apartment. A year ago, Scott gifted my parents a newly built house. How could he chase them away from the house he willingly gifted them? At that point, I started developing a strong hatred for him. How can he ruin my life because of a single mistake? Not just my life, but he is also ruining my parents' life. Scott also did another terrible thing. He stopped paying for my brother's school fees. My brother was in an aviation school. His fees were expensive. That was why my parents sold their house in the first place. Scott started paying my brother's school fees after we met and promised my parents that he would make sure my brother graduates, because my brother was at the verge of dropping out before Scott stepped in. He also gives my siblings pockets money. He also canceled the knee surgery he booked for my dad and took his back. One by one, he started destroying everything he has ever done for me. I couldn't believe he was capable of such an act. If someone had told me Scott was that heartless, I would have bet with all my heart that it was a lie. Nothing made sense to me any longer. Everything escalated quickly. I didn't know what to do. My parents were homeless. My brother has been sent off school because Scott informed the school authority he wasn't going to be his sponsor any longer. My parents had to move back and continued living in a shared apartment. Life never made sense again. Everything felt like a dream. I decided to go look for a job in a saloon, but the pay was so little. I decided to just accept the job when I got tired of moving around and looking for a job. Few months later, after the divorce was finalized, sorry guys, I forgot to mention, I didn't get alimony because Scott and I signed a prenuptial agreement before the wedding. I was the one that suggested the idea because I didn't want to seem like I was getting married to him because of his money, but I still regret that decision till today. It was a foolish move. So, a few months later, Scott married again, this time to the lady his dad chose. I heard the lady is the daughter of Mr. Alex's friend. Guys, I'm sobbing as I'm writing this now. My life never remained the same after that Christmas party. I wish I never got drunk at that party. I couldn't believe my marriage of 2 years had ended and that my husband is married to another woman now. How can Scott punish me for something I didn't have control over? I was drunk. It wasn't a conscious decision. But I don't blame. He only acted based on what he saw. I still blame myself for everything that happened. I take full responsibility for everything that happened, deep down in my heart. I know Scott would have forgiven me if I'd confessed everything to him immediately. I mean, he saw how drunk I was. He would have understood I was under the influence of alcohol. Everything wouldn't have gone so bad if I hadn't listened to Mr. Alex's stupid advice. A chameleon can never change. I don't know how I foolishly fell into his trap. When Scott and I got married 2 years ago, I never knew a day would come when we would get divorced. I thought it was going to be a forever thing, so that one would have thought that Scott's obsession to destroy my life would stop after he got married. But that's wrong. One day, I woke to my phone binging with notifications. My battery got flat in the process that I had to power it up. I opened my phone and I saw different tags. Apparently, Scott and his family had uploaded the video of me kissing Mr. Alex. The video was on every blog. People that knew me were calling me. The video was tagged the gold digger that tried to seduce her father-in-law. Of course, the face of Mr. Alex was perfectly covered, while mine was exposed. Everyone was calling me names and judging me. It got so bad I had to resign at the hairdresser salon because people started recognizing me and mocking me. I'm leaving every single day in regret. Update. One would think that I have suffered enough, right? Well, guess what, guys? That's not true. People would come to the saloon just to abuse me and call me all manner of names. Tears became my food. I cried to bed every day. I never thought Scott was serious when he vowed to destroy my life. I thought it was just empty threats. I never knew he was going to upload the videos. I got so tired of everything. I couldn't breathe very well. I was exhausted. I thought everything was just a horrible nightmare and that I would soon wake up. But that never happened. Every day, I only prayed for strength to live. My parents and siblings were the only will I had to live. I wish Scott nothing but the best. I know he acted out of anger, and his anger is justified. He only acted based on what he saw. Maybe if I had confessed everything to him, things would have been different. But I know it's too late now. Even if Scott finds out the truth today, I know we can never be together again, because he is already married to someone else. Maybe we were never really destined to be together forever. I will cherish the few years of our marriage forever. I chose to remember only the good because he is the best thing that has ever happened to me, and our marriage was beautiful while it lasted. That's my story, guys. I hope we learn from it. Don't ever keep anything from your partners, and don't ever get married to anyone that the parents don't approve of you. It will always end in tears. At the end of the day, those people will make sure they frustrate you in the marriage. Another free advice is please never sign a prenup, ladies. Please don't be a fool like me. Lowell, thanks and goodbye.